Michigan earned a pair of defensive line commitments this week. Both 4-stars, both I think of good size, of good stature. One out of Texas, another out of Illinois. Michigan, like last season, getting a great defensive lineman out of Illinois, and then going into Texas and getting a player in Alister Vallejo, I hope that's how you say his name, who Notre Dame really, really wanted, 6'3", 310 pounds. He committed yesterday, Tuesday, June 10th, and McHale Blade committed June 9th on a Monday. It seems like Michigan is putting together a recruiting class that I would call for now solid, and based on their board, I think it's a class that can be really good, that can be top 10 again, that if they play their cards right and pay out a lot of money and have success this season, again, playing all their cards right, which typically doesn't happen. Typically teams, even ones that win the Natty, don't play all their cards correctly, or at least all the balls don't bounce in their direction. Think of the last two national championship winners, or even the last 3 or 4. Ohio State had a lot of injuries along the O-line that hampered it, and their corners didn't pan out the way that you thought they were going to after 2023. Michigan in 2023, tackle didn't pan out the way they wanted to until the playoffs, and then their wide receiver core probably wasn't as good as one might have hoped it to be that year. I thought that Roman Wilson could have been a 1,000-yard receiver, but alas, didn't happen. In Georgia, back in 2022, and I could go on and on and on, their pass defense and their defense overall is not up to standard from their perspective with all the talent they had. And then Georgia in 2021, well, they got destroyed by Alabama, and that was because despite all the talent that defense had, it had some exploitable weaknesses, and Stetson Bennett wasn't the perfect quarterback talent either. But all of those teams were elite. They all won a bunch of games. They all won the national title, which was the most important. If Michigan can just have most of the balls bounce their way or play most of their cards correctly, or even just some of them, this recruiting class can be quite impressive. Before we get to that, though, I do want to dive into these two defensive line commits a little bit more specifically, and I also ask, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit the notification bell so that you can get notified when we give you more content about Michigan football, and also hit the notification bell for the Michigan football podcast that we have on here, which is just a playlist for you to follow if you really care about my Michigan football content but don't care about many other teams. It's just an opportunity for you to catch up with my Michigan news. So hit the notification bell for that in the description. And also check out any other links we have in the description. We have a Discord server that's free, Patreon page for some paid members, and also a merchandise store where you can purchase merchandise that's really comfortable and nice to wear. Should probably wear it on the show more often. But anyway, who cares? This recruiting class is ranked 32nd, 6 4-stars, 3 3-stars per composite. Also has an average player rank of a 90.43. Let's start off with the first defensive line commit, McHale Blade. At the edge position, 6'4", 245 pounds. That's some nice height, nice weight for a defensive end. Simeon High School, or maybe it's Simon, I don't know. Chicago, Illinois. 210th nationally per 24/7 Sports and per the composite, 168th nationally. Top 6 player, regardless of who you look at, in all of Illinois. Recruited by Lou Esposito, and he committed after his visit on June 6th. So the visit went rather well. When you look at his tape, guy's physical, impressive. He's everything I think that you want in a edge player. That's why he's ranked as a middle-of-the-road, even higher caliber 4-star. And Michigan was able to get good players out of Illinois last season. Nathaniel Marshall, he was from Illinois. So it's nice to kind of get that pipeline going, continue to utilize that. And Michigan, contrary to popular belief, when you look at the amount of 4 and 5 stars in the defensive line, they're not plentiful. Like Kenneth Grant was a 3-star. Mason Graham was a mid to high level 4-star. And when you look at Michigan's current offensive line, not all of them, not even the vast majority of them, are blue chip players. And the standard should be higher than that. just having a low-level 4-star and a bunch of 3-stars shouldn't be good enough. Now, Michigan's development has been good, both in the Harbaugh era and I would even say the Moore era on the D-line. One of the only areas that I don't think Michigan took a massive hit at in terms of positional development after Harbaugh's entire staff left was defensive line. They actually made it a great, impressive hire there in Lou Esposito, who I think is more proven than any other position coach on the defense, and most, if not all of them, on offense. Just my personal opinion. And I think a lot of the stuff he did at Western Michigan backs up that evidence. Michigan's defensive line is well situated, but all of their starters, minus Trey Pierce, so TJ Guy, Derek Moore, Rayshon Benny, 3 to 4 defensive linemen are gone after this year, starting. And then you look at the 2 deep, Cameron Brandt, Jr., Trey Williams, graduate, Damon Payne, graduate. So 3 of your 4 defensive tackles gone. And who knows, maybe I don't imagine more than 2 of Michigan's 2 deep at D end leave, but both of their starting defensive ends are gone. Don't have any more eligibility barring injury. TJ Guy and Derek Moore. So they need to recruit well on the D line. It's refreshing to see them doing that if you're a Michigan fan. Again, 6'4", 245 pounds, out of Illinois, physical at the point of attack, fast. Certainly looks like he knows how to use his body and is aware, has high situational awareness. So all good things you want to see. Alister Vallejo out of Texas, Liberty Hill, Texas, 204 ranked player per 24/7 Sports and 410th nationally per the composite. So 24/7 Sports is higher on him than a lot of other services are. He was going to either commit to Notre Dame, Kansas, or Michigan. Decided to commit to Michigan ahead of his planned visit on June 13th. Michigan flipped him essentially from Notre Dame, which is where he was heavily trending. He's had 18 sacks, 18 sacks over the past 2 seasons, which is crazy. 18 sacks, 21 TFLs, very productive player, 6'3", 310 pounds at the D-line. So he's not undersized. You're not going to have to bring him in and get him up in terms of total body weight. Now, probably have to put on some muscle, obviously a freshman, and most freshmen don't come in and immediately start, let alone contribute. But he's a good addition, given the fact that, again, you look at Michigan's depth chart, and whether it's Ike Iwuna, Damon Payne, Trey Williams, Rayshon Benny, there are 4 players from that defensive line who are gone after this year. And I think all of them are good college players. Some of them have the potential to be elite, I think, like Rayshon Benny. So there's going to be a lot of room in that D-line, and you're going to need to continue to stack talent there. Probably need to use the portal as well after this season. If you hear any meows, that's my cat saying hello, just for context. So great additions on the defensive line, as we already talked about. And Vallejo is powerful up the middle. Excellent pass rusher, great pursuit. He's huge, notable, energetic. I'm just seeing film of him right now block an extra point on his own. Huge gap for Michigan and Lou Esposito, in my mind. Now, you look at their board, and we'll talk about this briefly because I think at this point it's very hard to assess where players are going to go. But Felix Ojo from Lake Ridge, Mansfield, Texas, offensive tackle, 5th overall player per 24/7 Sports. After his visit to Michigan, he said that they're in contention with Texas and Ohio State, and he canceled his Oklahoma visit. So I think that's good news. The fact that he's contending with Ohio State and Texas, who usually are almost always going to recruit better than Michigan, unless Michigan is better than them over a timeline of years, or they're paying way more. The former's unlikely. The latter is also unlikely because Texas and Ohio State are operating at a machine level right now. That's impressive. And then Darius Gray is someone that 24/7 Sports lists as warm for Michigan. Same with Savion Hyder, running back. Gray is an offensive tackle from Richmond, Virginia. Trenton Henderson, edge from Florida, is viewed as warm for Michigan. And then Carter Meadows, another edge, warm from Washington, D.C. Kari Adams is in the picture. And then there's many other players, higher level 4 stars, top 100 players that Michigan seemingly could get. And then Brady Smigiel from Newberry Park from California. Per the composite, he's a top 100 player and a top 10 quarterback in this class, which is good. So I think Michigan recruiting is set up to succeed once again this year. I just think for whatever reason under Sherrone Moore and his staff, they start off slower but finish stronger, similar to what Texas does now, what Alabama did under Saban, and I think what they still do now, as opposed to Ohio State, who typically, starts strong, finishes strong. For example, Michigan used to start strong or start okay and then finish okay in both instances under Harbaugh, especially the later years. So Michigan recruiting, I think, is ultimately on the right track. That's what you want to see, especially since in the past few seasons outside of last year's 2025 recruiting class, Michigan recruiting kind of fell off a little bit. So it's good to see that momentum's being picked back up. You just wonder how sustainable this is and if they can sustain it, because nothing's guaranteed. But I'd say more likely than not, Michigan finishes with a top 10 recruiting class, pending on how the season does, whether they go over, under their win total, how they look in their games, etc.